My husband took me to a fancy dinner and said, "I have a surprise." He got down on one knee. But instead of a ring, he pulled out divorce papers. "I found someone better," he smirked. My eyes filled with tears, but I took a deep breath. "That's funny," I said, pulling out my own papers. "I was about to serve you first." His smile faded. Then the waiter walked up and whispered to him, "Sir, your card was declined." I leaned in and whispered back, "I froze all our accounts this morning." His reaction was priceless. I've been a long-time reader here but never imagined I'd be sharing my own story. Yet, life has a way of unfolding unexpectedly. I'm a 42-year-old woman, and my husband, whom we'll call Mark, is 45. We've been married for 18 years and have 2 teenage children. We reside in New York City, where Mark works in finance, and I run a small event planning business. Over the past year, I noticed changes in Mark's behavior. He started coming home later, was often distracted by his phone, and seemed emotionally distant. Whenever I inquired, he attributed it to work stress. I wanted to believe him, but my instincts told me something was amiss. One evening, Mark surprised me by suggesting we have dinner at Lou Bernardin, a renowned seafood restaurant in Midtown Manhattan. Securing a reservation there is challenging, so I was both surprised and hopeful. Perhaps he wanted to reconnect and address the growing distance between us. On the evening of the dinner, I dressed carefully, choosing an outfit that made me feel confident. Mark seemed unusually upbeat, which eased some of my apprehensions. We arrived at Lou Bernardin, known for its elegant ambience and exceptional cuisine. The soft lighting and sophisticated decor set the stage for what I hoped would be a memorable evening. Our conversation during the meal was light, touching on shared memories and future plans. For a moment, it felt like we were reconnecting. As dessert was served, Mark reached into his jacket pocket and said, "I have a surprise for you." He then got down on one knee, drawing the attention of nearby diners. Instead of a ring, he produced an envelope and handed it to me. Confused, I opened it to find divorce papers inside. He looked at me and said, "I found someone better." The words hit me hard, and I felt a surge of emotions. However, I had anticipated this moment. Maintaining my composure, I reached into my bag and pulled out my own envelope. "That's interesting," I said, placing it on the table. "I was about to serve you first." Mark's confident expression faltered as he opened the envelope to find my set of divorce papers. At that moment, the waiter approached Mark and discreetly informed him, "Sir, your card was declined." I leaned in and whispered, "I froze all our accounts this morning." His face turned pale, and he stared at me in disbelief. "How did you know?" he asked quietly. "Let's just say your better option isn't as discreet as you thought," I replied. A friend had seen Mark with another woman at a cafe downtown and had informed me. Instead of confronting him immediately, I took steps to protect myself, consulting with a lawyer and gathering evidence. Mark was visibly shaken. "This isn't over," he said. "Oh, it is," I responded. "Our lawyers will handle the rest." I then settled the bill with my personal card and left the restaurant, feeling a mix of emotions but knowing I had taken control of the situation. In the following weeks, the divorce proceedings began. Mark attempted to challenge the account freezes, but my lawyer had ensured everything was in order. It was a challenging time, especially explaining the situation to our children, but with support from friends and family, I began to move forward. After that dinner at Lou Bernardin, I thought the hardest part was over. I was wrong. Mark didn't go quietly. In fact, what came next was worse than the affair, worse than the dinner, worse than the public humiliation. About a week later, I started getting notifications from my bank. Someone had tried accessing our joint account again, multiple times. Then I got a call from my lawyer. Mark had hired an aggressive attorney and filed a petition to freeze my business account, claiming I'd been using marital funds to build the company and now he wanted a stake in it. He was trying to hurt me financially because I'd beat him to the punch. He wasn't just angry. He was furious. He didn't care about the money. This was about power. I wasn't new to handling pressure. I ran weddings for a living. I've dealt with brides crying, drunk groomsmen, even a ring lost in a pond once. But this? This was personal. I met with my lawyer and explained everything, how I'd started the business with my own savings, before Mark and I were even married. I pulled old emails, receipts, even the first business license I'd filed under my maiden name. We were building a solid defense, but Mark kept pushing. Then came the real twist. One morning, I was sitting at the kitchen table, going over paperwork, when my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it, but something told me to pick up. The voice on the other end was shaky. A woman. Young. Hi, are you Mark's wife? I paused. Soon to be ex. Who is this? There was silence. Then she said, I'm sorry. I didn't know. He told me you were crazy. That you cheated on him and drained his accounts. I stayed quiet. She kept going. I found your number through one of the business cards in his office drawer. Something felt off. He said you tried to ruin him. But today I saw your name on the account statement and I don't know. I just thought you should know. What's your name? I asked. Nicole, she said. I'm 24. We met at a networking event. He said he was divorced. He said his wife was stalking him. So this was the someone better Mark had found. I told her the truth. Everything. From the dinner to the divorce papers, to freezing the accounts. I told her he didn't just cheat, he tried to crush me when it backfired. She started crying. He told me he wanted to marry me, she whispered. I didn't say anything for a while. Then I told her, you can't fix a man who lies like it's second nature. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. You're destroying my life. Leave her alone. I didn't respond. The next day, Nicole emailed me a photo. It was a screenshot of Mark's texts to her. There were lies about me, about my business, about my kids. He told her I was emotionally unstable, that I'd faked the dinner story for attention. She wrote, I left him. I'm staying with my sister. I'm so sorry. But the damage wasn't over. That weekend, my 15-year-old daughter came home from school crying. A boy in her class had shown her a TikTok video. Mark had started posting online, calling me a gold digger, saying I manipulated him, stole his money, turned the kids against him. He had over 10,000 followers. I reported everything I could. But the internet is fast and ugly. I had clients asking if the rumors were true. My son wouldn't talk to me for days, he said he didn't want to take sides. I started feeling like I was drowning. This wasn't just a bad breakup anymore. This was war. And just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, my lawyer called and said, you're not going to like this, Mark filed for emergency custody. He's claiming emotional abuse. When my lawyer said emergency custody, I felt my stomach drop. What? I asked, thinking maybe I misheard. He's alleging emotional instability, financial abuse, and parental alienation. He's asking for full custody, at least temporarily. It didn't even sound real. I spent that whole night awake, sitting on the couch, the papers in front of me, just staring at them. I was being accused of mentally damaging my kids, by the same man who humiliated me in public and lied to his mistress about our marriage. And the worst part? My kids were stuck in the middle of this mess. My son was angry. My daughter was confused. Mark had started texting them both more, trying to win them over with gifts, fun weekends, promises of new phones. This man, who hadn't helped with school drop-offs in years, suddenly wanted to play the super dad card. But then another twist came, and this time, it came from my daughter. One night, she walked into my room holding a small notebook. Her face was pale. She said, I found this in Dad's old backpack. It was a journal. Or something close to one. Mark's handwriting, pages full of messy thoughts, dates, rants. What I read made my blood run cold. He wrote about planning the perfect exit. He detailed how he'd tell me at a public place so I couldn't freak out. He bragged about having someone new and how it'll break her to see me with someone younger. He even wrote things like, "Make her look crazy, that's how I win custody." I took pictures of every page. I sent them straight to my lawyer. That journal changed everything. We went to court for the emergency custody hearing. Mark showed up all polished and calm, wearing a navy suit, smiling like a politician. His lawyer painted me as unfit and controlling. Said my business was failing. Said I was manipulating our kids emotionally and financially. Then my lawyer stood up and introduced the journal. You should have seen Mark's face. The judge paused. He asked for a recess. After reviewing everything, the judge didn't just throw out the emergency custody request, he warned Mark about filing baseless, retaliatory motions and granted me temporary sole custody while we sorted through the main case. I wanted to feel relieved, but this wasn't over. 2 days later, I found out Mark had been let go from his firm. Apparently, one of the senior partners saw the TikToks. And Nicole? She worked for a client of his company. Her sister had shared what he'd done. The firm didn't want the bad PR, quietly, they let him go. You'd think losing his job, his girlfriend, and a big legal play would make him stop. It didn't. I started getting anonymous messages from fake accounts. You're a homewrecker. Lying *TCH. Give the kids to their dad. I recognized some of the usernames. Friends of Mark's. Distant cousins. People he had pulled into his fantasy that he was the victim. I started locking everything down, all my socials, my kids' accounts, even changed passwords for my business email. But then, the biggest twist of all, an envelope came in the mail from Mark's old company. It was addressed to both of us. I opened it and nearly dropped it. There had been an internal investigation. Mark had been diverting small client reimbursements, under $1,000 each, into a personal account for nearly 2 years. It wasn't a huge amount, but enough for the firm to report it. He was being investigated for fraud. I called my lawyer immediately. We sat down and talked about what this meant. Not just for the custody case. But everything. The divorce, the division of assets, his credibility, our kids' safety. He looked at me and said, "This changes everything." The fraud case shook everything. Mark had always walked that line, manipulative, sneaky, but never quite enough to get caught. Now he was under investigation by his former firm, and even worse for him, that meant subpoenas. Records. People digging into his finances. I knew this was my opening. I asked my lawyer to schedule a final mediation. Not court. I wanted one last shot to settle everything in a room, with him across from me. One table. One set of lawyers. One chance for the truth to come out in the open. Mark agreed. I don't think he really grasped how much I had. Or maybe he still thought he could twist things in his favor. That day came. We met at a law office in Midtown. Neutral ground. Mark walked in late, wearing another perfectly tailored suit, trying to look like the victim of a vindictive wife. His lawyer followed, confident but clearly tense. I sat there with my team, calm. I didn't look away. When the mediator asked if there was anything to bring to the table before discussing custody, I nodded. I handed over a folder. Inside were screenshots of every fake account harassing me. The journal, printed and highlighted. Nicole's email admitting everything and apologizing. The official letter from his firm outlining the financial misconduct and, the kicker, a list of every time Mark had transferred funds from our kids' college accounts into a business account that didn't exist. His lawyer flipped through the pages. I watched her face fall. Mark sat there frozen. Then he tried to laugh. You're really going to act like you're a saint? You manipulated this whole thing. The mediator raised a hand. "Sir, you can't speak out of turn." But Mark ignored him. "You just didn't like that I found someone younger. Admit it. You couldn't handle being replaced." Then it happened. The door opened. My daughter stood there. She'd insisted on coming, said she wanted to speak to the mediator. I hadn't expected her to walk in mid-sentence. She looked at him and said, "Replaced? You lied to Nicole. You lied to us. You posted about Mom online like she was some psycho. You stole from our college accounts. Is that what a good dad does?" Mark stood up. "What are you doing here? You're a kid." "No, I'm your kid," she snapped. "And I see you now. We all do." She turned and walked out. Mark didn't follow her. The room was dead silent. Then his lawyer said, quietly, "We need a break." They left the room. My lawyer turned to me and said, "That was the moment. It's over for him." They came back 30 minutes later. Mark didn't speak. His lawyer did. They agreed to full custody to me. He'd retain visitation, but only under supervised terms for now. He gave up his stake in my business. He withdrew the social media posts and deleted the videos after receiving a cease and desist. I thought I'd feel triumphant. But all I felt was tired. Outside, I found my daughter sitting on a bench. "I'm sorry," I said. "That you had to see all that." She looked at me. I needed to. I wanted to know for myself. Then she leaned her head on my shoulder. The weeks after that were messy. Mark went quiet. He stayed away. Nicole texted once more, said she was in therapy, that she was sorry for believing him, that she hoped I'd get peace. My son eventually came around too. It wasn't easy, but he started to see the truth. Slowly. Quietly. Through his own eyes. There was no big healing moment, no dramatic reunion. Just a broken family trying to rebuild, separately. The event planning business picked up again. Clients came back. A few dropped off during the chaos, but I let them go. I was too focused on moving forward. Sometimes I walk past Le Bernardin and think about that night. How surreal it felt. How the whole world can tilt in a moment. But I also think about how far I've come since then. Mark tried to humiliate me, rob me, erase me. He ended up exposing himself. If I learned anything through this, it's this: people will show you who they are when they think they've won. That's when the mask drops. I'm not sure I believe in happy endings anymore. But I believe in survival. I believe in truth. And right now, that's enough.